Why rich people think completely differently. Imagine giving two people the exact same opportunity, the same education, the same amount of money, the same amount of time. One slowly turns that opportunity into lasting wealth. The other loses almost everything within a few years. What made the difference? It wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. And it certainly wasn't the opportunity itself. The difference was how they thought. Most people believe wealthy individuals simply have more money. But the truth is much deeper than that. They often see the world through a completely different psychological lens. They ask different questions, notice different opportunities, and perhaps most importantly, they make decisions differently. Today we are performing an autopsy on the psychology of wealth. Not to suggest that every rich person thinks the same, but to uncover the mental patterns that consistently separate people who build wealth from those who spend a lifetime chasing it. By the end of this video, you may realize that the biggest gap between wealthy and average people isn't found in their bank accounts. It's found in the way they think. Before we begin, I want you to answer one question in the comments. If someone gave you $1 million today, what's the very first thing you do with it? Don't try to give the correct answer. Give your honest one. Your first instinct says a lot about your financial mindset. Let's begin with the first major difference. Most people think about income. Wealthy people think about ownership. Ask the average person how to become wealthier, and they'll often say, I need a higher paying job. Ask someone who's focused on building wealth, and they might ask, what can I own that continues producing value? That's a completely different question. A paycheck stops when you stop working. Ownership can continue creating income long after the work has been done. This is why many wealthy people spend so much time acquiring assets instead of simply increasing income. They understand something most people overlook. Working harder has limits. Ownership doesn't. Here's something to think about. When you imagine becoming financially successful, what's the first thing that comes to mind? A bigger salary or owning something valuable? Tell me in the comments. Your answer may reveal the mindset you're currently operating from. Now let's examine another psychological difference. Most people focus on price. Wealthy people focus on value. Imagine two people looking at the same book. The first says, it's too expensive. The second asks, can this information help me make better decisions for years? The wealthy aren't interested in spending money carelessly. They are interested in understanding the return on every decision. They don't simply ask how much does it cost. They ask what will this be worth over time. That shift changes everything. It affects education, relationships, business, investments, even time itself. Because time, like money, can either be spent or invested. Another major difference is how they think about time. Most people trade time for money. Many wealthy people spend years trying to separate the two. Instead of asking, how many hours will this take? They ask, can this continue producing value after I'm finished? That's why systems matter. Investments matter. Businesses matter. Assets matter. It's not because wealthy people dislike working. Many work incredibly hard. The difference is that their work often creates something that keeps working after they stop. Pause for a moment. If you could only improve one area of your financial life this year, what would it be? Saving? Investing? Starting a business? Learning a new skill? I'd love to see your answers in the comments. Now let's talk about risk. This is where many people misunderstand wealthy individuals. Most people believe rich people love taking risks. In reality, many wealthy people are obsessed with managing risk. They don't gamble, they calculate. Before making a decision, they often ask, what's the downside? Can I survive if this fails? What information am I missing? Average decision makers often focus only on potential rewards. Successful investors usually study potential losses first. That's because protecting wealth is often just as important as creating it. Now let's examine one of the most powerful psychological differences: delayed gratification. Imagine a child is offered one cookie now, or two cookies if they wait. Some eat the first cookie immediately, others wait. That simple ability to delay gratification has fascinated psychologists for decades because it reflects something much bigger. The ability to sacrifice today's pleasure for tomorrow's opportunity. Building wealth often requires making that decision repeatedly. Invest instead of spending. Save instead of upgrading. Learn instead of showing off. None of those choices feel exciting in the moment, but over years, they compound. Have you ever delayed buying something because you knew your future self would benefit? If you have, type worth the wait. Small decisions like that often shape an entire financial future. Another difference is how wealthy people view mistakes. Many people fear making financial mistakes, so they avoid action altogether. Wealth builders tend to expect mistakes. They simply try to make small ones. Instead of asking, how do I avoid failure? They ask, what can this teach me? That mindset creates resilience, because every setback becomes information instead of proof that they should quit. Now let's examine something almost nobody talks about. Identity. Many people secretly believe wealth belongs to someone else. Successful entrepreneurs, investors, people from wealthy families, but not them. Those beliefs quietly influence behavior. If your identity says people like me don't become wealthy, you'll unconsciously reject opportunities that challenge that story. Real financial transformation often begins with changing identity before changing income. Instead of saying, I'm trying to build wealth, you begin saying, I'm becoming someone who makes wise financial decisions. Your actions gradually start aligning with that belief. Here's another question. What's one belief about money you grew up hearing that you now question? Share it below. Reading other people's answers might challenge one of your own assumptions. Let's perform one final financial autopsy. Imagine two friends who receive the exact same bonus. The first celebrates by upgrading their lifestyle. The second celebrates by increasing ownership. Neither decision feels dramatic, but repeat those choices every year for 20 years and the difference becomes enormous. That's the hidden psychology of wealth. It's rarely one massive decision. It's hundreds of ordinary decisions made with a different way of thinking. If there's one lesson from today's case study, is this: rich people don't necessarily see opportunities that nobody else can see. More often, they interpret the same opportunities differently. Where others see spending, they see investing. Where others see consumption, they see ownership. Where others see immediate pleasure, they see long-term freedom. That's why wealth is built in the mind long before it appears in a bank account. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one final question. If someone secretly followed every financial decision you've made over the last year, would they conclude that you're thinking like a consumer or like an owner? Don't answer too quickly. Take a moment. Then read a few comments before leaving your own. You might discover that the most revealing financial lesson isn't in the video, it's in the conversation happening below. And if today's psychological autopsy changed the way you think about wealth, subscribe to the Wealth Pathologist. Because in the next case study, we are going to uncover one hidden mental habit that quietly separates people who build lasting wealth from those who stay financially stuck even when they earn more money. Once you recognize that pattern, you'll start seeing it in almost every financial decision you make.